Hello students, here we are going to learn about solitons. So soliton are narrow pulse with the high peak power and the spatial in the shape. So the most commonly used soliton pulses are called fundamental solitons. And the shape of this pulse is look like that initially the low peak and then the again high peak and again low peak. So this diagram is a fundamental soliton pulse, and the below diagram is envelope of the particular soliton pulse. So the mass pulses undergo broadening due to the group velocity of the dispersion, so when propagating through a optical fiber. So the soliton pulses take advantage of nonlinear effect in silica, specifically in self-phase modulations. So the pulse, the shape for which the balance between pulse compression and broadening occurs, so that the pulse either undergoes no change in shape or undergoes periodically changes in shape, only are called soliton. So some of the family of the pulses that undergo no change. So there are also known as also called as a fundamental solitons, and those that the undergo periodic changes in shape, so they are called the higher order solitons. So the significance of the soliton for the optical communication or optical network is that they overcome the detrimental effect of chromatic dispersion completely provided. So the soliton and optical amplifier, so when used together, offer a promise of very high bit rate. So in the case of optical amplifier, can be used for the periodic interval along the fiber, so that the attenuation undergo by the pulses is not significant, and the high power and the consequent soliton property of the pulses are maintained. So for provide very high bit rate or bit rate, repeatless data transmission over very large distance. And the use of the soliton pulses is key. Realize that very high bit rate required in OTDM systems also. So the main advantage of the soliton system is their relative immunity to the fiber dispersion, which in turn allows transmission at high speed of the few tens of gigabits per second. Or in the case, on the other hand, the convenience on-off key system, so dispersion can be managed a simple manner by alternating fiber with the positive and negative dispersion. So next is a stability of soliton. So in this case, the most remarkable factor is actually not the possibility of the mentioned balance of the dispersion and the non-linearity, but that the soliton solution of the non-linearity wave are very stable. So for substantial deviation of initial pulses from the exact soliton solution, the pulse automatically find the correct shape, whatever shape is there for the particular pulses or known as soliton shape, while shedding some of its energy into called a dispersive wave. So dispersive wave, a weak background which has too little intensity to experience significantly non-linear effect and temporarily broadens as a result of dispersion. Second is a soliton are very stable against changing in the properties of the medium. So that medium provided that these changes occur over a distance which are long compared with that so-called soliton period. So next is a higher order soliton. So in this higher order soliton, if the pulse or pulse energy is the square of the integer number times of the fundamental soliton energy, so this pulse is known as a higher order soliton. So such kind of pulse do not have preserved shape, but their shape varies periodically, with the period being that above mention of soliton period according to their changes. So that's why there's known as a higher order soliton. So last, some importance of soliton. So fundamental soliton pulse are technically very important, in particular for the long distance optical fiber communications, and in also MLL means mod locked lasers. So in the latter situation, that the soliton like pulses can be formed when the typically lumped pieces of dispersion and non-linearity in the laser cavity are sufficient weak. So the soliton are also applied in various techniques for pulse compression using optical fiber. So the examples are adiabatic soliton compression and the higher order soliton compressions where it is required.